Hello, fellow hellbound friends. My name's Jamie, and this is To Hell in a Podcast.
But you were born. Welcome to planet Earth each day. It's death and more.
Welcome back, guys, to the To Hell in a Podcast, a podcast where four women just get on here and have conversations with one another that slowly inch their way, step by step, into hell. But we're going to have fun on the way down, is basically our motto. So if you haven't ever listened to us before, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening to this first episode. We hope it lives up to all of your hopes and dreams and expectations. For those of you who are returning listeners, thanks for coming back. We appreciate you coming. We appreciate you listening and, being a frequent flyer, even of all the weird, crazy stuff that we talk about on here. So we appreciate it. My name is Kelly. I'm joined, as always, by my beautiful co-hosts. We have Jamie.
Hi.
We have Erin, Queen of Scots.
Hello.
And we have other Erin, aka Dot.
Hi.
You'll hear both.
Especially when something weird is said. Dot.
Exactly.
Then it's Dot.
No.
It will be. You'll be like an alter ego, but it'll be just when odd things are happening instead of like Beyonce, where she becomes Sasha Fierce or whatever that was. It'll be your Sasha Fierce side. It's fine. But
that's
guys,
cool.
Right? That's a good one.
Yeah.
So guys, basically we're going to actually be hearing from other Erin / Dot today. She's going to be talking about a topic that I have no idea what it is, so I can't introduce it properly. So I'm going to let her do that a little bit later. But before we do that, we have to do our TMI question. We haven't done these in a while because we're doing a lot of question and answer sessions, but we want to make sure we bring it back. So today, we want each of us basically to tell you an embarrassing childhood story, especially something that your parents, in my instance, grandparents, made you do or have done that has embarrassed you at some point in your life. I'm sure we have a lot of these stories, so we're just going to choose some of our best and let you know about them. So I'll go first.
Yeah.
Just to get it out of the way.
Been waiting since you met.
Yeah. Half of this podcast does not know this story. I don't think. You might recognize it, but the truth is, guys, I don't get embarrassed super easily by things. Maybe it's because I've just lived such an embarrassing life. My tolerance for it is so high that it takes a ton to embarrass me at this point. But this is something that my grandmother used to make me do. I remember distinctly her making me do it once in company around other adults for like their entertainment. But she used to make me sing a song and do sort of a little dance to it. And I will not show you the dance, so don't ask about it because it's never happening again. And I don't believe it was ever recorded. Thank God that it was the 90s before the internet was a thing, so no one will ever see it. But the song title was actually by someone, you might be able to guess it if I give you a little bit of clues. He played the dad on Hannah Montana. He currently has a very popular song out with someone by the name of Little Nas, but fortunately it was no cool song. It was Achy Breaky Heart.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I used to, I used to have to perform that for other adults.
Can I ask you, was that just like a song that your grandma loved and was like, you have to do this, or how?
No,
I just want to
don't.
know how this came about.
Honestly, I've probably repressed a lot of this. I know that Erin, as a therapist, will say that that's not something we do, but I'm pretty sure if any human has actually repressed a thought, it's me. I do not remember the origin of it. Honestly, guys, and this happened when I was like 7 or 8. I mean, I was young, and even back then I knew it was embarrassing. But I at one point had the song stuck in my head, I think. And so I was singing it out loud and my grandma must have thought it was cute. So she started to make me perform like a circus monkey for some reason. I don't remember having to do it a ton, but I do remember literally standing in their formal living room because she was from an age where they literally had a formal living room, formal dining room. Like we weren't allowed in there. like it was just for party sort of place.
Yes.
And there are other adults. It's Christmas time because the big tree is in the corner of the room, and she makes me perform Achy Breaky Heart with a small dance that goes with it, which again you'll never see, so don't ask. I've repressed that as well. But
what if we gave you so much booze, like all the booze?
No,
No.
that doesn't work.
No.
Damn it.
No, it's the problem. And honestly, to this day, I can't listen to the song even as a joke. I hate it so much. And when Billy Ray Cyrus like became a thing again, like it was like PTSD. Like I was having flashbacks, like I was in Nam. Like it was not good. It wasn't good. So yeah, that's
never in a million years did I think it was gonna keep breaking heart.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I told
I
you
was
that it was.
imagining.
Yeah,
that was my reaction the first time I heard it. Yes, I was like, "What?"
Yeah, because it's basically a song you've never thought of again in your entire life. You listened to it once when you were a kid when it was sort of popular, and then you never thought about it again. Who ever thinks of that song?
No,
besides me, because of my trauma. But
yeah, and your grandma obviously liked it enough where she wanted to hear it sung by you all the time.
I was cute doing it, I guess. And maybe I was, but it wasn't. No, I don't think it was cute. I just think it was torturous.
Oh god.
But yeah, that's my embarrassing kid thing. Probably the only thing as a kid I can think of that I'm like truly embarrassed by. It would be that. So top that, people. I'm gonna switch it over to Erin, Queen of Scots. Try and top it. I don't think anyone can.
I don't wanna. So like mine, I think is a story that like anyone with a uterus can relate to, because I was in middle school and our passing periods were 3 minutes long, which was not enough time to do anything. Like I'm a fast peer and like I can't even pee in 3 minutes, like, and wash my hands and like go to the locker and like get all my stuff. So it was just like, it was just bullshit. And I was like one of like 5 girls in my class who had their period. So it wasn't like quite, you know, like everyone was like, oh yeah, like I'm used to that. Like it was still kind of this alien, I think, concept. And I was like, I knew I had to go to the bathroom, but I don't want to be late to class because this teacher was like a total stickler. And so I go to class, and then like a couple minutes in, I'm like, hey, can I please use the restroom, you know? And she was like, no, you should have gone during passing period. I'm like, it's 3 minutes long. I have no time to go. I really need to go though. Yeah. And she was like, no, if you really needed to go, you should have gone during passing period. And so I was like, well, fucking great. And so like, of course, like bled through my pants and stuff like that, which is like super embarrassing as a 6th grader. So I start crying. Like, and she was like, you have to stay after school now and stuff. Like you like created a scene, and like she gave me detention because I just like ran to the bathroom. Like I was like, no. I started crying and I was like, no. And I just like ran to the bathroom in the middle of class. So she gave me detention. And this was 6th grade, so my brother was in the same school still. And I told him, I was like, hey Max, you know, you have to tell mom that I have a detention. And he was like, why? Because I like never got detentions. He's like, why? And I was like, I just don't want to talk about it. Can you just tell mom I'll be 15 minutes late to the car? And he was like, okay. So he told mom, and she was like, I'm just going to go like check really quick, you know, see what's going on. And she went into the classroom, and the teacher was like, well, she had to go to the bathroom in class. And my mom was like, I don't understand. Like, she's like, okay, why couldn't she go though? Well, she should have gone during passing period. And my mom was like, well, she couldn't though. And it's just me and this kid in detention, and I'm like, and luckily a friend of mine had like let me borrow her sweatshirt and stuff, so like it was fine, and like, you know, and everything. But like I'm sitting there, and my mom's like, and finally my mom starts yelling at this teacher once my mom finds out like why I like, when she was like, and she's like, are you gonna shame my daughter? Gonna shame? And just like yelling, and this kid and I are just like, and he's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm pretty good.
You go, but you go, mom. I mean, go.
I'm very proud of my mom, like, because she was really mad, because she was like, you like, and plus my mom's like, who cares why someone has to go to the bathroom? Like, let them go to the
especially
bathroom.
If she found out like why. You would think,
and my mom maybe made some comments about how this lady was very dried up and old, and that like maybe she wouldn't have experienced a period. And
but I'd be like, if I did that as a teacher and found out, I would be like so devastated. I'd be like, Yeah, I'd be like,
And,
oh
like,
my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Well,
And
and
as
also,
an
it's not like you're a kid who like you go to the bathroom every day during her class or something. You know, it's like I get it if it's like a
Yeah.
problem kid who uses it and then they're gone for like 20 minutes or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's like
Right.
if a kid
Nope.
tells you they have to go to the, it's this weird thing that adults do
power
where they like, yeah, where they immediately like, you know, make anything that a kid says illegitimate for whatever reason. Like, well, because you're a kid, whatever you
Right.
want or need that you tell me, like, I'm just gonna downplay
Right,
that.
and I, like, don't know my own body and, like, my
Yeah.
need to go even if I had to take a poop, like, it doesn't matter, like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
ask a student, like, if they unless they're a student who, like, purposely, is gone for, like,
right.
half an hour every class, then it's like, "Okay, let's have another conversation to figure this out."
Right.
Like, what's going
Right.
on? Is it a
Well,
help?
I'm like, yeah, it was and she was so nice to me for the rest of the year because my mom gave her some shit because my
Seriously.
mom was like, "Why?" And plus she's like, "What if she couldn't have found a sweatshirt? What's she supposed to do? Like,
Yeah.
walk around all day?" She's like, "I couldn't come and bring her something. I'm at work." So she's like, "What is she supposed to do? Just walk around all day with, like, proof
Like,
that you didn't believe that she had to go to the
yeah.
bathroom?" I'm like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
shaming a kid, like
Like, for having to
you want.
basic bodily functions, and, like, it was made worse by the fact that, like, hardly anyone in my class had their period yet either, so there wasn't, like, that
Mhm.
solidarity that you get when you're, like, a little bit older.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
like, they're like,
Oh,
"Here
as
you
soon as
go,
everybody
here's
has
a
their
tampon."
periods, yeah,
Like,
girls like
Mhm.
they band together at that
yeah,
point. We're like,
like,
hey, this is
"Do you need
shitty
a
and we all need to
tampon?
go
Here's some
through it.
pads." Like, all
Yeah.
here's my sweatshirt, and, like, luckily, this girl in my class who was really nice and, like, I stuck up for we were really good friends because I always became friends with my dad said, like, I always was friends with the misfits, like, the kids that, like, were kind of the oddballs, and she was, like, 6 feet tall in 7th grade, so, clearly had
Wow.
already hit puberty. So she, like, helped me, like, she gave me her sweatshirt, and, like, she was really nice, and she's like, "Don't worry about it, like, it happens to everybody and stuff, like, you don't need to be embarrassed." And I was like, "That's so nice of you, but now I have a detention because, like, I'm bleeding from my
Yeah.
uterus. Like, this is fair,
And
man."
I'm sorry, can I also piggyback on this? So I hit my period in 5th grade, like literally still in elementary school, and I had to go
Mhm.
and complain to the school because I was like, the bathrooms do not have like like the trash inside the stall
Right.
in elementary
Mhm.
school, which makes no sense because it's like, yeah, mostly kids use this, but so do adults. So why the hell
Yeah.
wouldn't you have a
Right.
place to put things, right?
Yep.
And I was like, so like I would literally, if I was on my period, I would like have to wait until everyone was out of the restroom, and then I felt like I had to like sneak whatever it was because
Mhm.
that's early. I feel like, I mean, you know, like most people 5th grade is fairly early, so like I don't think any of the girls in my class were dealing with what I was dealing with, and so it was just
Yeah.
sort of like, I mean, my boob size alone probably told that story that I was the only one who was like hitting puberty as the only one who had anything where everybody else was real
Wow.
flat chested.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so it was just sort of like, excuse me, like I know you don't want to think of elementary school girls with their periods, but it totally happened. So help
Yeah.
us out here.
They actually put them in at my elementary school because a girl in my class got her period in 5th grade, and she was, like, super embarrassed one day because she was, like, trying to find a trash can for it, and, like, the closest trash can was, like, down the hallway in her
Yeah.
classroom.
Gross.
And it's
Oh
like, how
God.
one, unsanitary, but number 2, super embarrassing. And so
Super embarrassing.
they put them in the bathrooms because her
Yeah.
mom was a
I
wonderful
wasted so much toilet paper just wrapping the wrappers up so like you couldn't tell what it was, and then
Mhm.
I'd have to go out when no one else was in there and
No.
put it in, and then take paper towels and push everything down
Yeah.
and like
whereas
try and
now I just
hide it.
slam dunk like as an
Well, you
adult.
did because, like,
Like,
especially if it's close to the top, like, you didn't want somebody to, like, mess with it and, like, because it's that irrational fear that, like, somebody's gonna see you leave the bathroom and then they're gonna walk in and see it and, like,
Mhm.
think, "Oh
right.
my god, it's yours." I mean, it probably wouldn't happen, but that's what's going through your mind.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
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 So hopefully everyone out there, solidarity. We've all had those stories.
Mhm.
It's happened to everybody, and it sucks
And
because
I always keep like 10 tampons in my purse. I never need that many, but I always keep them,
I know.
just
me
in
too.
case. If
Same.
someone's, oh my god, I need a tampon. I'm like, here you are. I have
We
multiple
go.
sizes for you. Like, what do you
Yeah.
need, my
Mhm.
friend?
Seriously. that guys wonder why we have such big purses. It's literally just so we can help other ladies out in lady issue time.
Tampons.
Also tissues.
All tampons.
So if you guys ever need tissues or tampons, I got
it's everything. I have safety pins in mine in case somebody's, button breaks or something. I'm like ready to help sisters out. I very rarely care about guys and their issues. I'm like, I don't know, figure it out. But ladies, I'm like, let me help you immediately. Let me
figure your shit
make
out,
sure
man.
everything is fine.
Clothes that make sense. Figure it out.
It's like, you know what? When women make equal to men, then I'll worry about providing things for you.
Until then, fuck it.
Yeah.
So I will go to Jamie so Erin can do hers last and start her thing.
So mine is was a little bit older, but like more of, again, something embarrassing that my parents did. So when they remodeled our bathroom in our childhood home, so Erin and I, our 2 rooms, and we had a bathroom. So it was the main bathroom on the 2nd floor, like where anybody who was upstairs would use that bathroom. And when they redid it, they decided to make a little photo collage collection with Erin and I's potty training pictures. So pants pulled down on the toilet. And then it was like one of us in like the bath. So we're like, and again, we're little, obviously, but like naked on like, taking a bath in the sink. And it also reminds me about my grandparents. Like my grandma has this collage and there's like a picture of Erin and I were like 4 or 5 naked in the shower. Like,
yeah, I don't know who was like, all right, we got to take
a picture. Like, and so the one at home, I just remember like in college having one of my like crushes over, like, it's so like this idea is like, oh yeah, use the bathroom. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like,
oh no,
not that bathroom
on the toilet. And then I also just remember, like I said, at my grandparents at the lake, like we had friends come over and it was like a couple who it was like one of the first times we were like really hanging out, like Mo and Alyssa, like we've been hanging out a little bit, but like, you're not like super like at that, like close at that time. And it's like, oh yeah, there's me naked at like 5 years old. Like,
here you go.
Basically, I mean, it's kind of angled from the side, but pretty much full frontal. It's like, oh my gosh.
Well, that makes me laugh so much because all of our parents have those photos of us naked in certain situations. I don't know that there's a child who doesn't have that photo somewhere in their life. But normally, like, it's in a box somewhere, or it's like, at least it's in like a closable, like,
Mom listen to this podcast. Mom, shout out Mom.
Yeah. I just think it's funny that both your parents and your grandparents were like, no, this is fine. Just
put it out in the world.
Out there, yep.
That's amazing.
It's still in our childhood home.
Oh, it is, because I remember I was like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
Photogenic children naked.
I did, because I remember, because isn't it up behind the sink?
It's
the opposite, right across from
your sink, and then on the
it's because I feel like I remember washing my hands and like kind of like in the mirror, and then just be like,
yep,
naked babies,
like because you're sort of like you're like, oh, those are cute pictures, and then you're like,
oh, they're on the toilet.
Are those
they're definitely on the toilet?
Everyone like envision what we look like on the toilet.
Yeah, you're like, wow, that's real meta to have like bathroom photos in a bathroom.
Like, and also I thought, I was like, wow, what a like Inception, like bathroom.
I know, it was like interesting.
Time travel and bathroom, just the whole thing. Yeah,
that's amazing.
I will pass the torch to Dot.
Mine is, so when Jamie and I were going into first grade, is that one?
Yeah.
So that was the first year that we were going to be in different classes. So I was having a really hard time.
Yeah, just to clarify, I was doing fine. I was
Jamie was doing fine.
I didn't need any comfort support animals.
Yeah. So my parents were saying that they told the school that I was having a hard time, and the school said, well, she can bring like a toy to help, ease in, because she didn't have her sister. Well, out of all the toys that I had, I decided to bring my life-sized Power Ranger, white Power Ranger Tommy doll to school. I think it was like every day for a month or 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm like picturing
it
you
was a long
carrying
time.
this in every day. Like, come, Tommy. Like, let's go.
Yeah, I don't know how I transported it. I mean,
it reminds me of that scene in Parks and Rec where like Leslie and Andy are together and she's like, you can get 3 candies. And he's like, 3? And he goes running off. And then he comes back with literally a giant thing of gummy bears. And he's like, this counts as 1. Like, I feel like that's exactly what you did. They're like, oh, like she can bring a toy, expecting you to bring like a Barbie or like a stuffed animal. And you're like, I'm bringing the biggest toy I can find because you gave me permission and you put no parameters.
You gave me an I took a life-size Power Ranger doll.
Yeah, I just think that's, I mean, you just went as far with it as you could. You're like, oh, really? Well then.
Yeah. I was like teeny tiny, so I don't know how I transported that thing like to class and then like out.
With him. You were very skilled at carrying Tommy.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's the other embarrassing when I was thinking of the dancing, because my parents in their narration, they're like, oh, the girls and their princes, and Erin's dancing with Tommy, and I'm dancing with my brother. I'm like,
that's the weird flowers in the attic stuff there. Like,
and you're, like it was like really.
It was like the princes or boyfriends. It was something.
Or, yeah,
it was
like something, but that was like
Kyle?
He was really
he
was
like
2.
Like, he was probably like 2. Yeah, he was probably like he was like 2, at least 2 or something.
Yeah, I can't remember if the princes or boy. Either way, it was like definitely
one
like
of them.
Lied.
So wrong.
Yeah, it's like
neither one of them is good.
Yeah,
that's
they're
amazing.
both equally creepy for different reasons. Yes,
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
All right, so ladies, do you want to launch into so that we've finally come to the time where you guys get to hear some weird history shit from me.
Yay!
Well, today
we approved.
I'm going to,
we did.
oh yeah, you did say that this was okay. So today I'm going to talk about the weird medical psychological phenomenon called the Glass Delusion. So it's this thing that took place from like the Middle Ages until about like the late 1800s or so.
I hope we bring it back, whatever it is.
Well, I'm going to talk about some like what it is, and then I'll tell some famous cases, and then kind of like some theories about what the hell caused people to suffer from it, and then so I'll just kind of go through the list.
Can I just say though, preface this by saying I've always worried to listen to these stories, just like I'm always afraid to go to a cult meeting because I'm like, this is gonna trigger
into this.
Like, what if
maybe
talk about something and I'm gonna be like, you know what? Actually, yeah, that sounds pretty good.
That seems
so if that happens, I just want it out there right now. It's Dot's fault.
Yeah, we're blending it.
Hopefully this doesn't trigger anything in anybody. But yeah, so the gist of it is that it occurs and people think that they're either made of glass and or like they have glass within them. So yeah, in some cases they think like their entire body is made of glass, or like a certain organ, like a heart, lungs, or I've been doing research. My personal favorite, there were many men who thought that their butts were made of glass.
Okay, wait. So when you say like made of glass, do you mean like if they're fully made of glass, they have to like sit down really carefully like a glass?
Yeah,
so that's
if
what. Someone hits me too hard, I'll break.
No, like I'll go through like some of the famous cases, but like they are legit scared that they're going to. So like lots of times it involves either like one of them involves like they made like contraptions, or they just like hang out in a big pile of straw, or I mean obviously touching people.
My brain just did like a real like total dad joke when it like put the ass in Glass Delusion.
I'm just rich people, man. Rich people.
Well, so that is, I mean, as you'll see, a lot of them were nobility and or royals, which makes sense, especially in the Middle Ages, because they're the people who were likely to have seen glass, because glass wasn't like, I mean, you start seeing this phenomenon like right around when glass was invented. So
this is why inbreeding is wrong, kiddos.
Well, that's
sorts of
that's
things.
what I said. I literally I said I have to point out that inbreeding couldn't have helped the situation. But anyway, like we just have all these references, and it's even in like literature. Like there's a Cervantes story that was published in like 1613 that talks about like it has a main character who's suffering from it. So like it was in the culture, like people were suffering from it, like you suffer from plague or smallpox.
Is it common?
So
or fairly
yeah, I mean, you see a lot of, you see, well, I'm going to talk about two like royal ones, but
is this in
like
Europe?
That's the ones that I've seen have just been sort of Western, but who knows, that's
Jamie,
sort of our.
Please put down the pen. You look like you're taking notes.
Yeah. Like, yes, Erin, tell me more.
Yeah, you're like, well, did it happen in Western Europe? Like, let me just...
I'm a lifelong learner. I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes when I hear stories, I have to like, okay, I'm gonna put it down.
I did, but it did go from like royal families. I guess there were like people in like monasteries and stuff. So like there were like normal, I guess like normal people suffering from too. But
I just looked at my notes. I had Glass Delusion,
no
butts.
But
if there's something you take out of this, people thought
please keep that sticky note for forever.
Seriously, frame it.
1800s butts.
But okay, guys.
Okay, sorry. You should get through it.
Yes, I'm going to go to one of the probably the most famous case. Like anytime if you look it up, you'll see it's Charles VI of France. Okay. And he was called, Erin, there's if you want to listen to like sort of more about his reign, there's a episode of Noble Blood about it, another podcast, which talks about like nobles and crazy royal stuff. But he rules France from 1380 to 1422, so he's one of the early sufferers. But he had all kinds of mental illness, so he'd slip in and out of like lucidity. Sometimes he had no idea who his wife and kids were. He'd kill people in like fits of rage. Had like months where he didn't want to bathe or change clothes. And then obviously at one point he suffered from the Glass Delusion. But like before he suffered, his mental health had like already begun to worry people. And in 1393, they held this masquerade ball, which was for a wedding, but really they were trying to like entertain him to like keep him happy and kind of sane. Well, it backfired because, they decided that they were going to do this mask. And so him and like 5 other dudes were dressed up as these like wood creatures. And it was like a linen costume, and they put like resin or pitch on the costume, and then they stuck like lots of like hair and weird things on it.
And really flammable.
Really flammable. But they knew that, so they said no torches, no candles. Well, the king's brother comes in and he has a torch and he's like, I want to see who these guys are. And he's looking at them, and then obviously, boop, and all the men, including the king, go on fire. And so it's called, they call it the Ball of the Burning Men. The king survives because his aunt recognizes it's him, even though he's in like costume, and she like uses her skirts to like save him. Another dude like
that's badass,
or like jumps into like a wine vat. I mean, that sounds amazing.
Didn't he still die though, that guy?
No, he survived, but then the four other dudes burn there like right in front of anybody. So it's
after if this is where stop, drop, and roll became a thing, that they're like, we got to teach all kids about this. It's too easy to catch on fire and nobody has any idea what to do.
Yeah, like we probably shouldn't douse our bodies with gasoline, basically.
Yeah.
Let's just
Even if it's for a fun mask ball, like let's not do that. But
especially like
anyway,
put signs out, no torches in here, brother.
yeah. Even you, brother.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But what
How
a
bad do you
badass
think you
aunt, can
are?
I just say? Like, way
Yeah.
to react well
And
in a crisis.
she was only like 14 too.
Yeah.
She was like,
Dang!
yeah.
That's
She was like, I'm gonna
amazing.
put it out. Yeah, but like obviously after this he like went completely downhill. Obviously
Fair.
like if yeah, you think like maybe the trauma because this is where he starts suffering from the glass delusion. So it maybe was like somewhat trauma related as well as inbreeding. Um, but
An odd
yeah,
combination of those two.
he'd lie very still, like in huge, like they just put so many blankets out, and he'd just like hang out all day, which is basically me on the weekend. um, yeah, to keep from shattering, and then he had like these, like his clothes were all reinforced with rods and like irons to like protect his glass body so it wouldn't shatter. And obviously, nobody was allowed to come near him. So he's like the king of social distancing before before all that happened.
And sorry, like, do you
Yeah.
think, like, do they think that it's connected to people who have like near death experience? Like, is it supposed to be something where it's like they're made extremely vulnerable in a situation, and that's why
Well,
suddenly?
that is one of like the like because I'll talk about sort of the theories like why people think that happened. Like they do think
Jumping
like
ahead again.
it might be some sort of fragility because like with him he became king when he was really young. Like he was a boy king and had like a really stressful regency and stuff. So
And then he was
maybe
literally on
that may
fire.
yeah, that'll do it. And then, then the next one, like the next person I'll talk about, like her dad was forced to abdicate. So, like, obviously, that could also be a stressful situation. So, I do think it has something to do with fragility. But anyway, the postscript when it comes to Charles. So, this is going to seem very random, but I swear it's leading somewhere. So, his daughter, Catherine, marries King Henry V of England. So, and then Henry V dies not long after that, leaving Catherine and Henry's son, also named Henry because they have no creativity. He becomes king at the ripe old age of 9 months. And he also inherits his grandpa's mental illness. And it's Catherine's second marriage that I wanted to mention because while her baby son's away ruling, she hangs away from court, and unbeknownst to anybody, she starts shacking up with, having lots of babies with, and possibly marrying a hot. I'm going to assume he was super hot. Welshman named Owen Tudor. So they're the great so basically the Glass King's daughter is the great grandma of Henry VIII. So when people say like maybe syphilis caused a lot of his issues, through his maternal line he's got some major mental illness. So
I mean, syphilis does drill
post.
holes into your brain. That doesn't help anything.
I mean, in inbreeding,
Yeah.
man, it is such a bitch.
Inbreeding, syphilis, all of that.
Yeah. Well, that's the next one. The next royal case is like prime for. I mean, it's total inbreeding. It's Princess Alexandra of Bavaria. She's in the mid 1800s, so this is one of the later cases. She's the House of Wittelsbach, which is like rife with mental illness. They're to mental illness what the Habsburgs are to inbreeding. Like there's like 30 members or something of them like all go mad. But she like King Charles, she like suffered from a lot of like mental ailments. She was like in her 20s, she was obsessed with cleanliness, so probably a fellow OCD sufferer. And she'd like only wear white clothes, like that was all she would wear in her 20s. But then that's when she came down with the glass delusion. And hers was a little bit different because instead of thinking she was made of glass, she thought she consumed a glass piano, was what she told people, because she like didn't want to go by walls or had to walk sideways through doorways because she thought that the piano would make her get stuck in the doorway.
Okay,
Wait, I'm sorry.
Full-size piano that she swallowed.
Yes.
Her body.
So
Yeah,
she's
a grand
Looney
piano.
Tunes. So she
Yes.
Looney Tune thinks that she's normal shoulders, normal chest, stomach out as a
piano.
big, and then normal
It's
legs.
glass.
Like
It's glass too. Yeah, and it's glass, so you don't want to knock
How
it.
did she come to think that she ate a piano? That's really my
They
question.
they don't explain. Yeah, but like she'd
But
have to be very
big
careful.
accident.
Well, and just remember, you guys, delusions, like, there's no use arguing with a person about them because you're only going to make them stronger. So you just like kind of ride it out and like see if you can convince them to change their mind in like a sneaky backhanded.
I don't know. I have to be honest. If I see somebody walking sideways through doors because they're sure a piano is in them, I don't know that I couldn't argue about it at least a little bit. I mean, you'd be in the back of my head, Erin, being like, "Don't argue about it," and I'd be like, "Yeah, but a piano."
But it's not even. It's not just a piano, it's a glass piano, and that it was going to break if she
Okay, but like, did she think it was going to break and like stab her organs, like glass shards?
I mean, like that it would hurt, like that it would shatter and hurt her.
You know, so you wouldn't be walking around with this giant glass piano inside of your body.
No, but
then not if you're worried about glass cutting you.
Yeah, I do a lot of mental gymnastics with people delusions, so clearly I'm trying here.
But like this is, I mean, and this is hers is a really famous case, but other ones it was something like they had consumed and that it was like stuck within them, and that they don't want it to break, so you have to be super careful. And I think that's what, I mean, especially for her, like I think that's kind of what fascinates her, is like there's almost this sort of fairy tale element, like kings and princesses made of glass. Like it's evocative, it's something that you can picture, unlike sort of a nebulous mental thing like schizophrenia.
Sounds like a fairy tale, like a princess.
Yeah.
Glass.
Yeah,
well,
like
that's
she
what.
needs.
Yeah, but that's what I was gonna say. Is her nephew is the one who built Neuschwanstein. I'm totally butchering it, but the inspiration for Disney's The Sleeping Beauty castle.
Yeah,
so
that
it's
castle's
like
gorgeous.
But he also had mental illness, so
it's the therapist maybe in me that's like, I bet all these royal people too were raised to be like in this like gilded sort of cage, that you're like this like thing that's like so delicate and like people like don't let anyone like get to you, or like you need to protect yourself all the time. So it makes me think like, well shit, I'm like metaphorically made of glass, maybe I'm literally made of glass. Like that's what it kind of makes
and that's what they talk about, how like because the glass was new. Like so I can talk about sort of the theories and stuff, so they thought that like because glass was new, that it was just something about it was associated with sort of something magical or alchemy like, and then like the other is it could be a manifestation of like sort of social anxiety, because it obviously keeps people at a distance because they're like, yo, you can't come near me, you're going to shatter me.
I've got this giant ass glass piano.
Got a glass piano inside of me. Sorry.
Or just obviously that fragility piece, because like I said, obviously if you look at these two royal cases, Charles had a really stressful regency where like when he was little as king, he was basically being ruled by like 4 evil uncles, so very fairy tale. And then Alexandra, her dad was forced to abdicate because he was like having a very, very public affair with a actress, which is, at that time was basically a prostitute, Lola Montez. So
hey, they still don't like it. I'm looking at you, England, and the way you've been treating Meghan Markle.
Like, oh yeah, fuck you, British family.
I'm just saying, like, seriously, the way that, I mean, like, they have not gotten better from this. You wonder why Glass Delusion becomes a thing? Look at yourself. That's all I'm saying.
Look at your life, look at your choices.
No kidding.
Seriously. Reassess.
Well, and then, like, when I was reading one of the other articles, they talked about, again, this fascination with new like materials. I guess before the Glass Delusion, people supposedly thought that they were made of like pottery. And then afterwards, after the Glass Delusion kind of fades away in the 19th century, people thought that they were made of cement. But they made the comparison that it between now and sort of the microchips, or thinking that like computers are like tracking them, something like that. You're like, it's kind of similar.
A new thing.
Yeah, I think any sort of illness that makes you think something is inside of you that isn't, like probably manifests from the same sort of like source, like interesting.
It's just culturally, there's different kind of probably pieces, too.
Yeah.
And I just think it's the way that they just treated royalty too, was very much that like you are this like divine thing, and like you can't let anyone touch you and stuff. Like you're divine, you're chosen by God, and like that's got to do something to your brain too if you're like raised your whole life thinking that you're like this descendant of God himself, like sort of thing. Like God picked you. That has to make you
and I can't say it enough, but inbreeding, not a good idea.
No, totally.
There was that
probably a lot of this
that they said a lot of them had, that I can't remember what it's called. It starts with a P. There was that disease that they thought a lot of the royal families had that just made you go like absolutely cuckoo nanners like later on in life. That like a lot of these royals had these things where like they did these really extreme behaviors because their brain was probably melting a little bit,
like, I have to say, like, it might be controversial. I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm against inbreeding. That's what this story has taught me. I mean,
100%.
I know that might make me a rebel here, because people should live their lives, but I'm going to come out and say, not a fan.
Well, especially like
it's not good for health.
This episode should be inbreeding is not. We do not support inbreeding.
Yeah. And now I'm looking at Jamie and Erin's parents even a little bit more with the whole prince boyfriend thing. You dancing with your brother, like that's why I said it could be controversial in this group, but I don't want your parents to stop liking me, but not cool.
Full circle.
I'm gonna use though for the social anxiety when I feel like socially anxious. Like Kevin's like, let's go out. I'll be like, oh, I'm made of glass.
And then fall into a bed.
Lay me down in a bed of straw.
Go in the blanket.
Stay away from me. Yeah. I'm gonna have to have this whole king-size bed to myself.
If you roll up,
that is a good reason.
Yeah. The baby's made of glass for the next.
Oh, that's a good one. But the last case isn't. I don't even have it doesn't even have a name. It's like from Spanish nobility, and it's in the 16th century. And this is like, Erin, I'm directing this at you because this is some shitty. The doctor tries to do some shitty like early exposure therapy to them. So this noble thought that he was actually a glass face, but he wasn't human. He was a glass face. And so to hear him, his doctor he would always he was in a room full of straw, this dude, like, because he didn't want to, roll off or trying to protect himself from shattering.
Yeah. Doing whatever basis does. Yeah.
Was he like a decoration? Like, did he hold himself? Like,
I don't
like flowers.
Yeah, he's like.
No, it didn't. It does not say if he like was pretending to be a vase, but he was laying in like a whole thing of straw in the room. So the doctor lit the straw on fire, locked the door. And then the guy is banging on it, and he's like, the fucking doctor just is like, well, if you really were a glass face, wouldn't you have broken by now? No. shitty 16th century.
Kelly's like, I actually like
that is a pretty extreme version of tough love there. Like,
you break.
It's like, how are you pounding on the door? You would just shatter. Like,
but there's well, and I think that, because can you imagine being like the staff in this house and gotta get some straw for our vase, Lord, like
seriously, it's like, do they have to clean him super careful? I mean, it's just like,
well, they probably don't. They probably doesn't let. I mean, most of these, it's like nobody can touch them. So I'm sure he's not getting cleaned or bathed or anything. Well, yeah, you could spray that from
pledge.
I mean, I'm just saying, I know things that were smelly back then. I mean, I know that that's true, but could you imagine if you were the one servant who had to like go and muck out all of the disgusting vase straw and then like put more straw into that room? Like he's a freaking horse. Like you gotta muck out his stall.
I mean, yeah, I would assume.
Because vases don't use the bathroom. They're not going to a chamber pot. I'm just saying.
Use a vase.
Yeah.
Vases don't use chamber pots, Kelly.
Yeah,
they are.
Imagine being the just imagine being the servant who has to deal with that mess. That's what I'm saying. My sympathy is with the servant. Dude. It's probably why the doctor was like, you know what, this is disgusting. We just gotta do something.
We're burning it down. It's like we just gotta burn it down.
I mean, that's extreme. Don't get me wrong. Like I would have just pushed him down, and when he didn't break and shatter when he fell, I'd be like, see? I mean, I wouldn't have set him on fire.
Or maybe he'd be like, oh my God, I am broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then he did finally admit that he wasn't a vase, but he was a very miserable dude who was almost getting burned. I think he survived, but he almost got burned alive because of his shitty doctor. Yeah.
So, I can't say it enough. Access to mental health. So important. We need to make sure people have resources.
Also,
this is what happened when you don't.
Breeding.
And stop. Those are two very important.
Stop.
But yeah.
Go to therapy. Stop inbreeding royal families. That's like everything in Europe. When it's like, oh, this person was so-and-so's cousin and sister and stuff. And you're like, okay, stop it. Just bring a new person in. Find the hottest chick in town and bring her on in. Let's stop it.
It's like with cows where you bring in a new bull every once in a while. It's like, get some fresh blood in there, It's
like go to a town. You can be super sexist even and just like do a voting, okay, you're the 10 out of 10 in this town. You're the dime piece. Let's go. And bring her on down. Just
get some more chorus into that stallion blood. That's what I'm saying,
It's like with the Habsburgs, like by the end of the line, like the last one, like their like jaw was so fucked up that they could like barely open their jaw.
Yeah.
So
stop inbreeding.
Yeah.
Stop it.
We don't endorse.
Are you taking notes on this, baby?
We're gonna actively condone.
Jamie, you're saying no inbreeding?
Yeah,
it is. We're going to be real controversial. Right. We're going to go out on a limb there, even if it, kills our podcast to say it, but we're against inbreeding overall. That's an official stance that we're on.
No
inbreeding. But you get the point.
Yeah.
For many reasons, but mental health and glass delusion wise also. But anyway, like, so they by like the late 1800s is sort of when it just fizzles out, it stops. People stop having reports of it, except for maybe there might still be cases. There's a psychiatrist in like the Netherlands who claims he's discovered some modern cases, but I couldn't find like any corroboration or anything. But he did say there was like one in the 30s and one in like the 1960s, but I couldn't find additional information on those. So it might not be completely gone. There might be some people out there who still suffer.
To be honest, it's not the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my career. So I mean, like, I had a patient who thought he was a werewolf. So I mean, like, it's
but it's just weird that like there's a whole like that's just like one instance, but here it's like this. There's a pretty sizable list of people who believed it. Something so bizarre, and then it keeps afflicting people, and then it just stops.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, there's tons of things like that, though. Hypochondriacs who are like constantly sure that something in their body is wrong. Like you see it, because I also, and I don't know what it's called, and Erin, maybe you do, but people who have that phantom limb syndrome where they're sure that they shouldn't have a limb that they have. Like I've literally seen where like people have removed their own legs because they don't feel like those legs are their own. Like it's some sort of imposter syndrome thing. So it's like it sort of takes different forms, but it's obviously been around forever where people are like, something is wrong with my body, and
Something's for
you know,
yeah,
even though everything is fine.
And I
Right,
feel
but
like if they were already kind of primed, because they all were, because they had Swiss cheese inbreeding brains,
Yep.
that it may have been that they were like, someone said, oh, like your great great uncle, like he thought he was made of glass, and it's like, oh, what? And then it just kind of gets in there.
They probably did have like bird bones by that point. They probably did like oftentimes
We're very
break their
fragile.
bones and stuff. You know, it's like that's probably what it was, is, you know, seeing glass for the first time and the way it shatters, you know, it's like, and then obviously seeing people like bones break and stuff like that. It makes sense why you would make that connection with one another, you know.
Yeah, and there's there's a lot of fragility, I think, with world, and like a lot of like, you must be protected sort of thing, that like it just makes sense that it would kind of go in that direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if I was to guess why it occurred or why people thought of that, I would do like sort of the fragility option. Just I think that makes the most sense. But yeah, I think obviously most of the cases we talked about here are probably suffered from multiple disorders. You know, they talk about Charles probably had some sort of schizophrenia thing going on. So there was a lot of things going on, not just the glass delusion, but that it's just a weird, evocative kind. Yeah, you hear it, and then it's hard to forget about it once you've heard it for the first time.
Yeah.
So
because it's like a myth. It's like the king might, you know, like everything they touch turns to gold. Like you can really see it as being like an evil thing that an evil witch does, where they turn the princess into glass. You know, it's like which makes them fragile and breakable.
Or
so
makes the princess swallow an entire glass piano.
Now that one's a little bit odder. That's an odd combination of the glass delusion and like body dysmorphia. Like that's a weird one. But like, yeah, especially like thinking that you're made of glass or that you could break like glass. That's just like it is like you could totally make a fairy tale and people would think it was just that, not realizing it was based off of an actual mental illness.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. I like
that's all I got. Yeah.
Like
interesting.
What we learned today: seek mental health services, stop inbreeding.
Oh, and politicians make access.
Also,
glass delusion,
and don't
1800 butts.
Butts. Yes, we also learned about glass butts.
Put the ass in glass delusion.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was like all men. So there's something about dudes and glass butts.
Oh please! They were all like,
yeah.
You were like, your penis is sacred and will create the, like future, like king of this nation. Like, you better protect your entire waist down area. Kind of makes sense.
Like, yeah, but I can also see it as being sort of a homophobic thing as well, right? You know, it's like sort of this idea of, can't let anything near your butt if you're a dude.
Yeah, tighten it up.
Just
make it glass. Make it glass.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's such an interesting thing, though. I mean, I honestly, and I'm going to be entirely honest, but I was worried when Erin was going to do a thing from history. And you guys don't know her, dear listeners, but she can talk for a really long time about any piece of history that fascinates her. And some of the things that fascinate Erin, I'm sure are fascinating to some. They are not fascinating to all. And so I was a little concerned, but this was really, really interesting. I had never heard of this before. So I'm sorry. I have to apologize to you, Erin, for silently not believing in you, because you did.
I brought the goods. I brought the goods.
Yeah.
The glass
expectations are really high for you next time. So
and I would say we would get you a certificate, but you already have a damn certificate.
That nobody else got. So, Matt, if you're listening to this, now that we're actually being recorded, fuck you, Matt, for only giving her a certificate.
I want a certificate.
Audience
filming.
Yeah.
To explain to our audience.
Episode too, Matt. Okay.
I just feel like we need to explain to our audience that before the podcast, my husband presented me with a certificate of awesome that said I completed the program or the training program requirement for amazing podcasting. and he printed it out, and they were very jealous, and now he's in trouble.
Yeah, listeners. So number one, you can see how disgusting the two of them are as newlyweds. So you're welcome. You're now a part of that. But number two, Matt, we know you're listening. Fuck you for putting it in just Erin's name. You could have put it in the podcast name, made everybody happy, but you didn't. So you failed, and I know you're listening. So just FYI.
You guys just gotta.
You're on 3/4 of our shit lists.
Step up your podcast game, and you too will get a certificate.
Whatever. My episode about witches was amazing. So.
I can't say anything because I haven't done one by myself yet. But when I do,
yours will also be amazing, Jamie. You deserve a certificate.
It's true.
Yeah, and Matt's gonna be banned from the podcast. No,
he can't listen anymore.
No, we can't, guys. Wait, pause. But we can't get rid of any listeners right now. We don't have enough to do that.
Okay, fine.
When we become super successful, we'll kick them off, and we'll point back to this episode as for why. But anyway, guys, before we just totally decimate Matt and make him cry at the end of this podcast, which we don't want to do, even though fuck you, Matt, we're all doing a fantastic job. Stop using nepotism to only like your wife. That's terrible.
It's going to be part of our new outro. There's fuck you, Matt.
They could say, you guys could say that, but Matt, I love you. You are the love of my life.
That's why I said you are on 3/4 of our shit list for this podcast. But anyway, guys, thanks for listening, except for Matt. We really appreciate you guys signing on and listening to us ramble as we do. As always, please make sure you like, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. And we'll be back next week with another podcast, probably talking about some random embarrassing stuff about us. So as always, thank you guys. We'll see you in hell.
Bye.
Bye.
You didn't ask for a bird, but you were born. Welcome to planet